I'd like to bring the September 28th, 2022 Regional Council meeting to order. If we could start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Appreciate it. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can just remain standing for a minute, a moment of silence for those who we lost over the last year, specifically Joey Zach, Ian Cooperstein, and Anthony Maggio. Thank you. Bill, can you call roll call, please, for Israel?
Okay. Dutchess County, Chrissy Eggmine.
Amy, present.
Okay. Dave Violante.
Present.
Joan Siebert.
Present.
Anthony Sang. Steve Scully Beeman. William Marshall. Orange County, Michael Bigg.
Here.
Rich Haley. Wayne Chan.
Here.
David Grass.
Here.
Israel Knobloch. Frank Cassanite. Mike Wachowski. Nancy Pfeiffer. Putnam County, Robert Cuomo. David Jacobson.
Here.
Steve Wygant.
Here.
Faith Martin. Nicholas Falcone.
Here.
Sarah Baker. Rockland County, Bernice Garati.
Here.
Nicholas Rasecki. Tim Egan.
Here.
Desiree Leon.
Here.
Glenn Albin.
Present.
Teresa Hamilton.
Present.
Ephraim Tuber.
Here.
BJ Leidner. Sullivan County, Albie Bachman.
Here.
Alex Rao.
Here.
Neil Madow.
Here.
Norman Prentice.
Here.
Mark Strauss. Sean Lewis. Ulster County, Rich Parrish.
Here.
Kelly Nelson. Karen Pardini. Matthew Goodnow. That's it.
Okay, so the only thing that I'd like to clarify, since obviously we have a roll call vote here in a few minutes, is of the delegates that are not here.
Bob Cuomo just showed up.
He's here.
Okay,
And there is that,
and there's another young lady standing in the back.
that's Bernice.
That's Bernice?
She's in Rockland, yes.
So, I don't see Putnam.
First
Oh,
base,
Bob
Bob.
Cuomo. Okay, so he's here.
So that means
So-
Nick can't vote.
Faith can't vote, Nick can't vote, Sarah's not here. So, is Rich Haley here?
No,
Okay.
but there's nobody in there for that.
And there's nobody for an alternate, that's perfect.
So Rockland, Nick Rasecki isn't here. We have Teresa Hamilton and
We're just trying to figure out who's going to vote for the counties as the alternate, that's all.
so Norman can't vote either in Sullivan.
Okay, can you just let them know? Well, who is voting?
Rockland is where we can't. We don't know. We have two alternates here. There's two alternates.
Right, but all of the primaries.
No, we're missing.
Yes, please.
We're missing Rasecki.
Okay, thank you. We can just go off the record for a minute.
So only one of those two.
Who is here? Oh, Ephraim's here.
Ephraim is here and Teresa is here.
Okay, from Rockland County, we have one delegate missing, and we have two alternates here. So between Teresa and Ephraim, I just need to know who's going to be the voting member from Rockland County. I'm sorry?
Oh, that was quick.
And there's...
Whoa!
Fast moving bus.
That takes care of everybody, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. We just wanted to make sure that we were up in front with what we had to do. I appreciate everybody's patience with delayed a little bit this morning, or this evening. We had a couple of technical difficulties, but they've been resolved and we're going to move forward with it. I also appreciate your diligence and willingness as we had to make an agenda. We had a last-minute change to the agenda that we had to turn around. So the agenda is going to be changed slightly from what was published. We have a request for a transfer of authority from Sullivan Paramedicine, DBA Mobile Medic EMS, to Empress EMS. So as a quick history, on September 26, 2022, the office received an email from Justin Bachman, CEO of Mobile Medic EMS, a division of Sullivan Paramedicine Incorporated, with a letter attached from Albie Bachman, founder of Mobile Medic EMS, a division of Sullivan Paramedicine Inc., requesting that the transfer of authority from Sullivan Paramedicine DBA Mobile Medic EMS to Empress EMS be placed on the agenda for this evening's meeting. It was originally scheduled for the May 18th meeting. The regional office has a completed transfer of authority application that has been received and available for review since April 26, 2022. This REMSCO is responsible under Article 06 or Policy 0606 to complete a transfer of EMS operating authority. Under Article 30, Section 310 permits EMS services to transfer operating authority to a new owner or owners or operators following a review of the competency and fitness of the new operator and the approval of the appropriate REMSCO and the department. Under subsection 3, fitness and competency is one responsibility of the application process to ensure the high quality of ownership and management of an ambulance service to the degree of attempting to identify any issues of character that would be detrimental to a highly personal service. With this as the purpose, the REMSCO shall address any issues relative to the competency and fitness of the applicant and the officers of the corporation as prescribed in Public Health Law 3005, subsection 5. The REMSCO may request the department to conduct a detailed review. We are in receipt of a letter from the Department of Health dated May 11th, 2022, finding the applicant fit and competent. The application and letter of support from the DOH was given to the Transportation Committee. We'll now hear from Glenn Alban, the committee chairman of the Transportation Committee, on their report.
Yeah, we met several months ago, reviewed the fitness and competency and the transfer of ownership. The committee, said, their fit and competency, and we should move forward with a second in motion tonight to transfer the ownership.
Okay, so we have a seconded motion to confer the transfer of ownership.
Correct.
Very good, thank you. As per the Hudson Valley Regional EMS Council bylaws, Article 8, conflict of interest, the following is there. No officer or member of the council may vote on any matter in which he or she has a pecuniary interest. When an officer or member of the council is uncertain as to whether a conflict of interest exists, he or she shall disclose the matter to the full council, which shall decide whether a conflict of interest exists. Is there anyone on the voting board now that wants to declare a conflict of interest? Albie Bachman is acknowledged as a conflict of interest. Is there anyone else?
I don't think I have a conflict of interest. I just wanted to point out that I don't really my interest.
Okay.
Doesn't make money.
All right. And you're not a fiduciary member of it, so, okay, very good.
You're not making the motion.
Understood.
No.
Any other conflict of interest that want to be disclosed? If not, we're ready to move to a roll call vote for the seconded motion to approve the fitness and competency of Empress EMS to receive the transfer of authority from Sullivan I'll say it slower. So it's of Sullivan Paramedicine Incorporated, DBA Mobile Medic EMS. We're ready for a roll call vote.
Okay.
Please.
Chrissy?
Vote in favor.
Okay. Dave Violante?
Yes.
Joan Siebert?
Yes.
Michael Bigg?
Yes.
Wayne Chen?
Yes.
David Grass?
Yes.
Robert Cuomo?
Yes.
David Jacobson?
Yes.
Steve Wygant?
Yes.
Bernice Garati?
Yes.
Tim Egan?
Yes.
Desiree Leon?
Yes.
Glenn Alban?
Yes.
And Teresa Hamilton?
Yes.
Alex Rao?
Yes.
Norman Neil Maddow,
Yes.
since he has a conflict, can Norman vote? Since he's excused. No, he's excused. Okay. So that's, well, it's a unanimous vote on it, yes.
Okay, so it's a unanimous vote yes, no nays, no abstentions, one conflict of interest, no.
Yeah, but I didn't get called.
Oh, hang on,
Did you call Ulster County? I don't think you did.
No, I didn't. Rich Parrish.
hold on a second.
Yes.
Neither did I.
It is not.
17.
17 yes,
One conflict.
no no's, one conflict of interest. Motion passes. The application will be submitted within the parameter timeframes as defined by 0606. You are excused. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yvette. Round of applause for Yvette, please. Thank you. Takes time to come out. All right, if I could have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 18th, 2022 meeting, please. Motion by Steve Wygant, seconded by Joan Siebert. Any nay votes? Objections? Comments? Good, that motion passes. It's been accepted. Mr. Parrish, if we could have the Vice President's report, please.
Okay, it's been an interesting couple months. Got involved with the hospital surge exercise that the federal government through ASPR mandates that the hospital have. And this year they require EMS to be involved. So I was requested by the MAH000 office of the Office of Hospital Emergency Preparedness to solicit that information. And it started back in February of 22, and I had the information, and then for some reason they canceled it. They didn't hold the exercise until last Thursday. But all 6 counties supplied me with the information on what their current status was. And then the day of the exercise, it was a 7-county E. coli outbreak. And each hospital had to accept 20% of their surge capacity. Like Westchester Hospital got 104 patients and what they were going to do with them. And they were supposed to look at offloading the patients either to home, to nursing homes, or to home health care. And that would EMS have resources available? So that was why the survey was done, and I had an issue with the way it was operated. It didn't operate like we would in the real world, where the hospital would contact their EMS coordinator and then escalate it up to the county. They brought it into a simulation area, and I had to say, all right, and Desiree sent us 4 ambulances. So, yep, yeah, I got 4 from there. We can send them, that type of stuff. At the hot wash today, I brought that up, that's not real world, that's not how it would operate. Right? So we addressed that. My biggest issue with all of this stuff, and I've always been the EMS rep to this committee, even when I was at the hospital, is we don't get any funding for this. The hospital got $12,000 per participating in this exercise. We don't get anything. So I made sure that got into the after action report today. We'll see where that goes, if we can get a taste of anything. All right? And then with the Transportation Committee, that's been an ongoing, multiple meetings. Yep. Met twice with state reps about different issues that we've had with that, with Ryan and Steve DeGrazzi, and then Desori. And then last week, this poor gentleman, Mike Pagozzi, yeah, we discussing some issues with him, and he goes, huh? He's the new Dana Jonas, and he has no clue what's going on, all right? So every question we asked him was, I got to check with legal, So that is what I've been doing.
Any questions for Rich? Hearing none. Would you like a chair?
Oh,
Bernice?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Today was the the OHEP meeting, and at it, the Regional Training Center used to be Stony Brook. It is now Northwell Health, and they get grant money to do education. And they sent it out, and I said, well, where's EMS on that? Oh, you should be getting it. No, we're not getting it. So hopefully we're going to get that, but they have PHTLS, ALLS, you name it, and they get grant money to run these programs. So hopefully we'll get them distributed to us, and then we can get them out on the website and get them posted. All right? And they talked about cybercrime today, and a gentleman from Orange County Community College, the guy was really sharp. And I shared it with Jeff and with Bill. You know, do we have information security? And, you know, and also, if the system goes down, do we have a commitment from our vendor to get it back up? And Bill just happened to state he sent a letter to the gentleman, so we'll be getting a look at that. That meeting is quarterly, so I'll be representing the council at that. I'm done now.
Very good. Any questions for Rich? Outstanding. Hearing none. My report's going to be a little shorter. Things are moving along well. Bill will give his report on what's happening inside the office. Our interactions have been relatively seamless. We're financially doing pretty well, and things are moving along pretty well. I had the pleasure of attending, it was a pleasure, but the memorial this year as the 3 people from Hudson Valley were placed up on the wall. It was a nice program. And again, not to take away from David's reports, because I'm not sure if he's got it in there as far as MAH00054, but most of you should, if you're not aware, the tree is now nearly full. So they formed a committee at MAH00054 a while back. They've come back with some recommendations. Essentially, those recommendations are they're going to add granite wings to the current memorial. And then what will happen is, as new names go up, some of the older names will come down. Now, and that's the stars. Their names will then be engraved into the wings of the granite memorial. So their name, their agency, when they were put up, will be cut into stone. That's being delayed a little bit right now because, like everything else, supply chains are where they are. They can't get the granite to put up on the memorial. So they're going to be adding that. And another feature that they're adding to it, and you guys that were there with me, correct me if I misstate this. Oh. Am I doing okay? So Terry sat on the committee, so when I get this wrong, she'll shoot me an evil eye and then correct me. Thank you. But from what I understand, they will, and the thought process behind it, Terry, if I heard everything correctly, is as a new name goes up, it's like a leaf on the tree, the older leaves will fall and then be etched into the wings of the granite, is the way that they're doing it.
What happens is when everything gets done, the current memorial is going to be taken down.
Okay.
And, yeah, a new one is going to be put up exactly like it. All of the current stars will be taken off. They have fallen. Once
Okay.
they do it, they'll all be fallen. Will be brand new plate. The wings will have those 909 names etched onto the wings already. Each year that we add names, the star will go up and the name will be etched. There's also going to be a kiosk that's going to be...
That was the most interesting part. If you could just explain that to them, what they're doing with that?
So we're putting in a kiosk as well, so that it'll tell you where on the tree the person's name, where person is, where on the wings they are, so that it'll have a little bit of background of the person, their name, their agency, their date of passing, and I believe there's going to be a small little blurb about who they were on that as well.
Like a bio.
It's going to be pretty interesting. So we're looking forward to it. The last thing we were looking at was Ryan was talking about what to do with the current monument. Relocate it someplace, possibly have it made, cut in half, make benches out of it, because it's kind of like, it's a stone, it's a memorial stone.
Sure.
You don't just trash it and move it on. So there's been, conversation about that as well.
Well, kudos to you and your colleagues, because they put a lot of thought, effort, and passion into, redesigning this and making sure that it not only was modernized for future individuals that'll be put on it, but also respectful of those that are currently on it. So
Terry,
I thought it was a great
said they've taken
job.
the stars off.
The stars, so part of the problem that they're having right now is over the years, there hadn't really been a form of epoxy to use. So they're having a tough time getting some of them off without damaging them. The original thought was to take them off and possibly hand them over or present them to either the agencies or the family. But what's happening is as they're trying to get them off, they're breaking. So, there was talk about maybe we could get them replaced, depending on funding. That was the reason for leaving them on the memorial as it is and relocating that. So they have learned though from that mistake, that they now have an epoxy that they'll be able to utilize on the new stone so that they'll be able to remove them hopefully many, many, many years from now when the next one goes on.
I just
Very
was
nice.
wondering what they were going to do with the stars. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's the end of my report. Any questions for me? The only thing that I do want to add, and I apologize, I had made this statement a couple of meetings ago that I was diligently trying to go to each one of the local council meetings. I've had the opportunity to attend several of them. It's not several councils, but you get the point. I've had the opportunity to obviously go to Orange, Ulster. I've been to Dutchess. I have an appointment to go to Sullivan's here in the beginning of October. I would try to come to Putnam. We just have to figure out how we're not doing it on a Sunday morning because I can't afford to be divorced. So I would love to come to Sullivan, and Rockland is the last one that I'm trying to schedule to go in. So I'll remember that in about 12 seconds. I'll forget it. So I'll need an email just to try and remind. And essentially what I'm doing is going into the local councils and reminding them what this council does. Also reminding them that you as the delegates and alternates have a voice here. And if you haven't had an opportunity to attend, maybe they should encourage those individuals that are delegates and alternates to attend. And if they can't, maybe relinquish to someone that can. So we're really just trying to get the word out of what it is we do, what we can do together, how we can work together. There are a ton of grants that are available out there that seem to come a little easier when they're multi-county. So we would love to be able to, energize this. Don't ask me how to bring more people in, because that's what we're trying to decide. Because we're all in that boat. But that's all I have. Any questions? Thank you. Treasurer's report, please. Wayne.
Okay, Treasurer's report. We have 51 checks and electronic payments for a total of $61,019.53. Top expenses were rent and health insurance. We had one for legal for $1,000 and one for fish solutions for $1,818.70. And the rest were basically smaller bills for water, internet, phone, and supplies. We made 2 transfers to payroll on June 22nd and August 18th, both for $30,000. We had 4 deposits for $25,824.33. We had vouchers that were paid on 7/7 for council for $1,573.62. We had one for $18,727.88, and one for $5,507.52. We have pending vouchers outstanding from January 1 to being 31 for $13,381.37, and another one for 4/1/22 to 6/3/22 for $65,330.67 for a total of $78,712.04. So our account balances are total money on deposit is $150,199.84.
Have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Tim Egan, second. Desiree, any questions or comments? Get a show of hand, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. You got that? Excellent. All right, we'll move on to the regional staff report. Bill.
Hi, everybody. We are in the process of doing contracts with the state right now, the Bureau of EMS. We have 2 contracts. We have one contract for the Regional Council, which is this group and body that meets, and they have their own contract and deliverables. We also have a second contract for the program agency, which is what our office is, and we support the council, we support the REMAC, we support the RTAC, and that's where that contract comes from. The REMSCO is going to be a 2-year renewal contract with very little changes and the same deliverable and the same money. The PA contract, the program agency contract, will be a 2-year extension of the existing contract with a change in the deliverables. Small changes is what they say. I haven't seen the full detail of that yet, but still the same money. And when I say the same money, that's the same money that we were getting in 1997. We have not had an increase in our grants since then on either side. So we push for that at every meeting, but it doesn't come through too easily. Obviously. We've had 6 policies. The Bureau has put out 6 policies since our last meeting, so we should probably take a look at them. There's a CME recertification policy for people that have extended their certification. The paramedic PSE that is changed to the National Registry is one of the policies. The CPR education for EMS providers is policy 2208, and it tells you that you must have in-person skill testing for any course to be accepted by the Bureau of EMS, and they list several accepted courses, and the others can be a one-on-one case, decision on that case. There's also a policy 09, that's the extension of military personnel. So anybody that's on military leave can get an extension as long as they expire within 6 months of coming back from active duty. They can get a separate extension, and they must apply to the Bureau for that. The policy 10 is the health advisory on cases of monkeypox. It talks about the identification of monkeypox, PPE for providers, infection control, transport of patients, waste, monkeypox waste, materials and waste, exposure to monkeypox, and how to report it. So those are important to you. Now the last one is number 11, which is HCS provider search and digital cards. That allows providers to print their digital cards from the HCS system. But don't get excited about it just yet, because we can't do it. Some of the program agency directors are directors in the HCS system, and some aren't, and they didn't realize that. I happen to be one that's not, so I cannot assign coordinators to agencies as of yet. Once we assign a coordinator to an agency, the agency then can bring their people involved into HCS, and the individual, the provider, is the only one that can print their card. So we expect that to happen very shortly. I emailed Dan Clayton. He did send me back and saying there are 2 people working on it, and he expects to see that soon. I want to talk about some of the CON and the operating certificates that have been going on in the Hudson Valley. So Mobile Medic to Empress TOA was moved to this meeting, and it was voted on. American Legion transferred their certificate to Highland EMS in Sullivan County, and the certificate was issued. New Windsor Rescue Squad and Margaretville Hospital Ambulance have been on hold with their EOTs for more than 12 months.
New Paltz,
What did I say?
New Windsor.
Oh, I'm sorry. New Paltz Rescue Squad and Margaretville Hospital have been on hold for, their EOTs have been on hold for 12 months. All the paperwork expired, nothing can be processed. So we're going to remove their applications, and if they do want to move forward, they're going to have to resubmit all their paperwork. New Windsor, their 2018 expansion of territory, the Transportation Committee has received data from New York State Bureau of EMS, is what we've been waiting for. The data is being reviewed and analyzed by members of the committee. The Deputy Director of the Bureau of EMS, Dezura, has also sent instructions on contacting CON holders prior to the application and asking them for additional information on what was done, could have been done, and or why it was done or wasn't done. So all of that went out, all certified letters went out. All of the agencies did not respond to our request, but the committee is reviewing those responses, and the committee has met several times since we sent it out and since some of them have come back to discuss the data, review all the information from the previous record to ensure that they make a valid seconded motion to the council at our next meeting on December 21st, 2020. Any additional communication that comes in from anybody is forwarded right to the Transportation Committee so that they can do their evaluation. We expect that at the next meeting we will have a final on that. Okay, that's a good nod.
Thank you.
Good nod.
Thank you.
The office also has two TOAs of almost completed paperwork. The paperwork hasn't been submitted yet, but we discussed them with the applicants, and their submission is pending. We have 2 municons that were applied for in our region, the municipal CONs, and one of them is waiting for an on-site inspection. The village of South Blooming Grove in Orange County is waiting for an on-site inspection, and the city of Kingston's municon is active now. We also have 2 agencies that are no longer responding to 911 calls in the region, and that's Ramapo Valley is no longer responding, is no longer being dispatched by 911 calls in Rockland, and Colmovac is no longer being dispatched for 911 calls in Orange County. Any questions on that segment? That was a lot of stuff. No? Okay, good. New York State Bureau of EMS has issued Empress EMS a course sponsorship in our area. So they applied for it. We had done the paperwork and approved it at our level, and then moved on to them. New York State Department of Labor was in the office last month. They did an audit on our files, our personnel files, our payroll files, deductions, company totals. The investigator said that we're in good shape, and there's nothing, we had nothing out of line in that. Michael Benanati's SIMSCO tag EMS in crisis. All the subcommittee reports have been submitted, and Michael is reviewing the preliminary results to assemble the white paper, and hopefully that will come out sometime in the fall. We have outstanding projects. We're still working on the IGEL, which I think Dave is going to go over when that time comes. We have reviewed the ALS upgrade, and we are updating that policy. The RSI criteria is still out in committee, so that won't be back for a while. Just want to remind everybody, take a look at the dashboard on the REMSCO website. We have statistics from 20, 21, and 22 out there for stroke, Narcan, cardiac arrest, and chest pain, and call statistics. And Jeff has also been working on some new data sets, and he's added pediatrics, trauma, and glutometry. As a reminder, NASVARA's Pulse Check 2022 is October 6th through the 9th at the Crown Plaza in Albany. We also have New York State Vital Signs coming up October 26th through the 30th in the Empire Plaza at Albany. We just recently had a SEMSCO CMAC meeting, so David will go over those details. Our next CMAC and SEMSCO will be December 6th and 7th. It will be conducted in person in Troy. We have a REMAC meeting scheduled for November 7th. Our next REMSCO meeting here is December 21st. And we have an RTAC meeting that is scheduled for November 4th at Mid-Hudson Regional Hospital. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill?
Bill, can we add Duchess's conference, Duchess Community College's Connections Conference, November 10th, that's all?
Sure.
Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Bill. Jeff, we could have the QA/QI report, please?
As Bill said, work on the dashboard continues. That was a fairly lengthy topic of conversation at Tuesday's protocol committee meeting. What we have on there is a really good overview of what's happening in the region. That being said, we don't have a clear picture of what all of the agencies are doing. And we have decided that basically what we're going to do is bring in agencies by county, primarily because they're going to share a lot of the same issues. I'm not worried about the commercial agencies because you should be doing your own data, and you know what you're looking at. The problem is, with the small agencies, you have small data sets, and it's there, but what are you really looking for? I can't pull out specific agency data unless you give me an idea of what you want, and then how we're going to look at it. So for a small agency in Putnam County, you may need 6 to 8 months or more of chest pain data to see how you're really doing. Whereas, Tim, you need 2 weeks, pretty much, because of call volume. So we figure that doing it by county is probably going to be the easiest way to do it, and we will do daytime, evening, whatever fits the schedules the best. But we would appreciate agency leadership and whoever's doing QA/QI to obviously show up to that. I prefer to do it here simply because it takes multiple screens to really demonstrate what we can do and how we can do it and how we can teach you how to do it. We have 200 agencies that are reporting electronically. I don't have time in a year to do justice to everything that's out there. So we're going to kind of help you learn how to do it and figure out what you need for data. There's so much data that we can pull. It can show you how your agency is doing, not just call-wise, but staffing-wise, equipment-wise. There's a lot we can pull out, but it's going to be up to the individual agencies to kind of guide that. There's no issue. Once we build a report, it's built. You don't have to change anything. All you have to do is execute it. So that part of it's pretty easy. And for the most part, I have all these reports written. I have a library of probably 150 reports. And those can all be gently customized because that's about all they would need at that point. Dave Jensen gave me a data request from Nuvance earlier in the year. Wanted 18 months worth of data for their EMS fellowship program. That was about a 70-hour project hitting close to 17 million data points all in different Excel spreadsheets to distill down to what, 8 or 9 questions? Yeah. But we have that data and we have the capability of doing whatever we need to do with it to figure out what your agency is doing. So let's set up a time and start working on this. This also ties into Mr. Violante's project with the State QA/QI project, and I will turn that over to him.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff has done a tremendous job on this. He showed us on the protocol meeting the other morning about the data. It's fantastic. I really encourage every agency in every county to look at it, first of all, online, and then come in and see what you can do with Jeff, because this really dovetails into QA/QI of the agency, really QI of the agency. We are really working towards, with all of this, a quarterly QI review at the regional level that involves every agency with all the different numbers. It would then encompass all the necessary needs that every agency would have for their QA/QI processing requirements also. So there's a lot of good things coming with it. Jeff has done a tremendous job. And so please utilize the work that he's done. This is part of what Dave was saying before, the region is here for, and for you, so use it and do it. These are steps that not every region is doing, so our region do see this stuff.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jeff? Well, then I guess we'll go over to the training committee. Mr. Violante.
So for training, the CIUs at Dutchess November, the November conference, so the instructor update will be then on one of the nights, I think it's on Friday night, that's there. It'll be both in person and online, so if we need to have a CRU, it'll encompass both, and the state's going to be a part of that as well. We'll send information out about that as it gets a little closer. The CLI didactic components are all online. The skills components of the CLI are going to be done by CIC and RF at a specialty core sponsor. The CIC is all on through NAMSI 1, and NAMSI 1 actually has an online component through CIC. And regional faculty updates will be online according to the state at the last meeting soon. So that'll be coming. We've been waiting for that. There are no longer program coordinators, so regional faculty is the next level from the state to the specialty core sponsor. That's right after training us.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Outstanding. Thank you, David. Does anybody have Dr. Pappish's report? Anybody want to comment on REMAC? It seemed pretty mellow, the last one. But
Yeah, our basic discussion was medication shortages.
We can talk about the protocol meeting as a part of that and include those.
please.
Go ahead.
Okay. So protocol meeting, we talked about the superbiotic pilot project. It's totally moved through the entire state process. We are just waiting for data transfers processes to be built in by the state from the state bridge to the program agency, which is the region. And so that takes a good amount of time to do. Because there's 17 vendors and the state has a multitude of changes along the time frame, they do it in 2-month increments, and so that they're not asking every other day for something to be changed, they do it every 2 months. And so we've submitted to Peter Brody at the state, who's in charge of data informatics, the names of those agencies interested as of now so that he can program those features in immediately. We don't have to wait 2 months to be able to have them get online with data transfer from the state to the region so they can follow that process. Ryan Greenberg said that we can absolutely do all the training on the Vital Science Academy online, which is great. And so all those things will be done there. So that's where that is. We're working on a lot of background stuff right now for it, but everything's been approved through the state and the commissioner level. The RSI program Billy talked about. The collaborative protocol group are moving back towards a 1-year update process, looking at when they're going to review the information sent in by providers and agencies to update the collaborative protocols, and then agree to them at council, push them through, and then put them in place instead of doing it every few months or whatever. I think it was just COVID really had something to play with all like that.
David, are they still going to use the collaborative protocol or that Guru thing?
So the collaborative protocol is the ALS treatment guidelines inclusive of the BLS protocols. There are a couple of apps that are out there. Lulu is one of the apps. I don't know what the other ones are. I guess there is a collaborative app as well.
Yeah, collaborative.
But
So they're going to
that's a
still,
great question.
you're going to still support the collaborative app, or are we?
As I understand it, yes.
Believe so.
So far,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
As of today.
yeah. The protocol group also has a subgroup working on minimum equipment and medication requirements. Do we really need 6 14-gauge catheters and all the other things that we have? Probably not. So they're working on that, and we'll have something out for the group in the very near future. And same kind of thing with medication shortages. We're just going to have to look at alternates, what's available, what's approved by REMAC as alternate medications. Remember that if you can't get a medication, you have to move to an alternate. You need to send a note to the region so that the region can notify the state. It's a really important part of the process so that you don't get jammed up from a liability perspective either. And part of that's all in policy 1304. To that end, we'll pass this around. A number of us worked on a process. This is really more for ALS providers and controlled substances. So if you're not an ALS provider and you don't deal with controlled substances, grab it. It's great information. You probably don't have to worry about it. But policy 1304, you got to follow that. We worked on this with Ryan Greenberg, with Mary Ramo, who runs the controlled substance components of Bureau of EMS, with
Andy Johnson.
thank you, Andy Johnson from the Bureau of Narcotics and Enforcement,
Last
Pam,
one passed.
Mark, and a couple other docs up at CMAC. And came with, but everybody endorsed it, and so basically you really follow 1304. If you can't get your medications, try and find an alternate supplier, go through this process. Remember that you're going to have to update your plan, you're going to have to update the state, the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, and ensure all the tracking bonds of the agency. Concentration packaging, if those things change also, you're going to have to do all that stuff as well. Same thing if you have to go to an alternate medication. So it's all really spelled out here. You don't need to go through it. And this has been endorsed by everybody. The state said that they will fast track your CS update if you need to send them something. Please involve the region. And Brian said, we brought this up at CMAC and Sensko, that the state is going to look at updating the expiration date of the alternate medications in 1304. The expiration date was December 31st of 2013. So it's been some time. The biggest one on the list right now is midazolam. The backup is diazepam.
Which is out.
And then following that, lorazepam. After that, there's nothing. There really isn't. There's nothing out there. So lorazepam is very difficult. It's got to be refrigerated, etc. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Hospitals themselves can't bind some of these things, and so that can be problematic too. I just encourage folks find some alternate suppliers now, so that if you run into the issue, we've got some backup plans. There's some other language we included in the notes section about in your CS plan, so you don't have to do it every single time. Just saying that you're going to follow the alternate medication plan approved by REMAC, REMSTO, CMAC, SAMSCO. REMAC comes up with the protocols for the region by statutory authority. It has to be approved by CMAC and then ultimately SAMSCO. That's all done, and this region has agreed to follow the collaborative protocols, but has also had an alternate formulary in place since some time ago. So we are covered for those.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We just ran into this and almost got jammed up a couple of times. Can you have an alternate supplier agreement in place ahead of time as a component of your plan, or do you have to wait until a problem arises?
You can have as many as you want.
So we could. I could have another supplier. Okay, so from now on renewals, I'm just going to have two suppliers.
I will caution you on that, because we changed suppliers almost weekly on trying to find a source of gasoline.
That's funny.
And hospital systems, I can guarantee you have got a little bit more buying power than small agencies.
Well, I just want to have an alternate, that way in case I run into a problem, I can just reach out to the alternate, just have it approved ahead of time. I just got it, midazolam with no problem. I had problems with fentanyl recently.
It's all over the chart.
Yeah,
It is all over. Sorry.
And remember that your ALS agencies can have an agreement with hospitals to purchase medications, controlled substances. You can purchase other medications to them only if they have a wholesaler license or a retailer license to do so. Most hospitals in Hudson Valley region do not have that in place. So, however you guys, just keep that in mind. And so that, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, just for context, for the BLS providers in the room, those 3 benzos are the primary medications that they would treat a seizure patient with, and they're running out. And they're not running out at the distributors, they're running out at the manufacturer. The manufacturer is not sending anything to the distributors, so you can call around to 17 distributors and they're all like, we're out, we're out. The ones that are surviving with no sweat are, as Dave said, the large facilities that have a large substock. They're okay now. they don't start fixing this soon, theirs too are going to run out. And we've spoke to a couple of hospitals that are scurrying now, that are getting ready to run out and looking for alternatives and what they're going to do, so.
What about like
It's national.
Cardinal Health and all those ones that McKesson or suppliers?
Those are distributors, not manufacturers.
They're
And
not-
it's a manufacturing problem.
With their bulk buying capability, would think
So one thing to keep in mind with this is, and some folks who run into this is, if you have a problem and you need it and you want to go to McKesson tomorrow, we're going to say, yeah, that's great, you can open an account and that's fine, but whatever we have is going to go to people that have been with us for 20 years.
Correct.
And so you're not going to get you're going to be at the end of the list even if you now have an account.
We even have orders in our systems where we have to consider PO meds before we can do IM meds. So
So-
think about the ability of the body to metabolize that PO medication when you're having a seizure.
Again, we're just making everybody aware of it so that you kind of understand where every agency's at. Some are okay now, some are getting a little skittish, and those that are okay now are starting to worry a little bit because they're realizing their stocks are running low. So it's a nationwide problem.
Corollary to this for BLS providers is just, I guess, to have alternate suppliers for regular items.
Yeah.
Durable, non-durable equipment, soft supplies, those kind of things.
So
Which we all did. That's all I had from protocol.
thank you. Any questions for Dave? Thank you for the detailed report. That was great. Glenn, do you have anything else from the Transportation Committee, sir?
No, we pretty much said it all. We are diligently working, and I know Bill keeps me informed of all of the things that are coming down the pike, and there are a couple coming down the pike, and
Okay.
we're working on all of that. To the
Excellent.
committee in November.
Excellent. Thank you for the work and the committee's work. Again, public information and policies and procedures, we're looking for chairs. So for those of you that are not on a committee, I don't want to have to strong arm you, but you need to be on a committee. Remember, this body voted the bylaws through. Every member or every delegate and every alternate needs to serve on at least one committee. So this is an easy way to do it. Mr. Buckman, you have anything from legislative and bylaws, sir?
I am proud to tell you that I have no report. All of the, I really love to hear that. All of the bills that I brought before you for the past year are still stalled in committee. And with the election that's coming up, I'm sure it'll be stalled even longer until we educate some of the new legislators that will be coming in. We have to stay on top of that. But if I may just take a minute to piggyback on the discussion that we had a little while ago about the EMS Memorial in Liberty.
Yes, sir.
In Albany. I never paid too much attention to the EMS Memorial until it affected us personally. Ian has been in EMS for a long time. He was Deputy Director of Operations for us. And there were 10 inductees, for lack of a better word, to the memorial this year, 7 of which came out of New York City as a result of 9/11. And the remaining 3 died as a result of COVID. Ian died of COVID. Ian, myself, and one other employee treated the same patient one night, and all 3 of us got the COVID-19. Ian succumbed to it quite rapidly as well. So I never paid too much attention to it, but I think that, God forbid, should one of your services succumb to a death as a result of anything, in the line of duty, just as these do, that you go and support this, because it gives closure to your employees, number one, because we're still having a tough time, because we miss Ian quite a bit. But it gives closure to the families. It was well done, professionally done, very heartfelt, and I urge all of you that, God forbid, should something happen in your agency, that you should support this and go up there and get it.
Thank you. Mr. Egan, anything on community paramedicine, sir?
I do, and it kind of dovetails into my colleague here. So not last week, but the previous Central meeting during legislative, Director Greenberg had made a comment that once the executive orders expire, all CP programs will end. So I didn't think too much of it. And I caught him afterward and I said, surely you don't mean my program and Ephesus program because they predated the executive orders and code. He said, no, they all did. We didn't have a chance to chat about it then, but I did speak with him a couple of weeks ago through the phone after he responded to an email. And he shed a little bit more light on that. And yes, all CP programs will end with the executive orders. And part of the reason he gave was because of the vote by the legislature to not support CP as well as other initiatives in the Part F governor's budget proposal and so on. So what he did tell me though, and I don't know if Jim's still here.
No, he left.
I did speak to Jim afterward, and what he did tell me is that the programs that do exist might be able to continue based on tweaking the programs to fully come within the confines of Article 30 and so on. I'm not going to get into any detail
Sure.
on that, it's not really relevant. The point is that we will need legislation to enable CP in the future. And I can tell you that Onion and Nicevera and other interested parties met several times over the past few months at the behest of Director Greenberg, again at that same Semsko meeting, to come up with our recommendations for the Bureau to put into their departmentals for the budget process coming up on the first of the year. And we did that. We put in a lot of language changes and so on. And hopefully we'll see where that goes. And hopefully there'll be some positive changes for next year. But as Albie pointed out, everything's stalled right now until the election. And all of the bills that are out there right now will have to be reintroduced next year anyway. So hopefully there'll be a CP bill out there that we can all get behind, as well as other initiatives that we're all interested in.
All right, just kind of dovetail on that, and I'll yield back to either David or Bill or Rich, who are there with me, or Terry. If I heard Ryan correctly, some executive orders have expired and some have not. What he was not clear about was which ones expired and which ones have not. So I would encourage everyone that was operating under an executive order to seek clarity on whether you're still able to operate under that executive order. Because as Tim just alluded to, he never, not that I heard, he was ever clear on which ones occur and which ones expired and which ones did not. Because some of them continued on because she only signed part of the executive orders back into a continuance. And that's in 30-day windows anyway.
So what I'm doing, specifically for our agency and our program, is I'm already putting together those tweaks that will allow us to continue regardless of whether or not this is an executive order. So we'll be able to continue. I'm very confident of that, assuming that the fund is there.
And again, some of those examples are, you may very well have members coming into your agencies that are looking to go through the National Registry process and obtaining a direct New York certificate. To the best of my knowledge, that still exists. That's still currently there. But those are situations where it'll affect both ALS and BLS agencies. Everybody's out there recruiting as hard as they can to try and get people to, serve their communities, and you're using any means possible. So it's important you kind of stay up on that if you're using those windows. So
I'm just wondering, if we're talking about that, now that these executive orders have expired, and that we have a new legislature coming in, should we consider, and the legislative committee could get together and talk about having a legislative breakfast once again to reintroduce these points that are just critical to our industry. Maybe we should talk about that.
No, I agree.
What I would suggest is the committee get together. I don't know who else is on the subject matter.
Yeah, I don't see.
I think there are another
I think
couple of people.
Michael
We should
was
get
at one
together
point.
and discuss legislative priorities and come up with existing legislation that could be formulated to new legislation. I agree with you. I think everything's coming out now after COVID, and I think it's time.
And it should follow what Nicevera supports and FASNY, so we're not going at three different favors. And Onion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can coordinate that.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd raise that issue. If you have interest in us doing that, I'll get the committee to talk.
And that's why we got together with, we always get together with Nicevera and Fire for that matter, as much as we possibly can on all of these issues, because we're strong together.
All right, thank you. That's good. Desiree, anything from awards?
No, just remind everybody to urge agencies to start thinking about board nominations. They can send them in at any point, and, we said we need to be willing to hold them and give them back to the counties, pick the one from each category when it gets closer. Submissions are dismal at best. I don't know what else we can do. In Rockland, Terry's giving hours as far as trying to take notes of memorable calls or events or incidents that occur, so we can go back and prompt our agencies to write them up. But not hard. It just doesn't get done.
So I'll dovetail on that a little bit. I know everybody wants to get out of here, but you can look at any study and any research and you can throw money at anything you want, and it's a short-lived high. The recognition, the accolades, the elevation from peers goes 5 times further. So being recognized by your peers, being put in for these awards, even if you don't win, still does a lot for the morale of your current members and their willingness to recruit new members in. So I would encourage you to, as Desiree said, bring these up, keep it up, stay in as hard as you can. Thank you, Desiree. David, we've circled back to State EMS Council. I'm sorry. I'm holding. Terry.
The only thing that I'm noticing is we are kind of like our own worst enemies. We whine and complain that we're not getting recognized, but we're not willing to throw ourselves out there and say, I did a great job on this. I want someone to know about it. So it's like, where do we go with this?
Sure.
I personally think if, anybody, any crew wants to send in, hey, I did a really great job the other night, send it in, send it to somebody, have a pot someplace where it can go to, like Des said, so that we can go through it and say, hey, this goes to Stony Point, this goes to Oxford, this goes to RMC, any agency, and say, here you go, one of your crews worked this up, it's there. So I think if we start promoting that, amongst yourselves, just tell your crew members, you did something good, send it to somebody.
Sure. Thank you.
Just real quick,
Go ahead.
we need a representative on the awards committee from Ulster and Dutchess. So if anyone's interested, let myself and Aaron know, so we can make sure the county representatives. It's really not a lot of work.
Drawing short straws now. I think Chrissy lost.
Why is there a lot of time? It's just really a conference call. It's not a lot of work.
You need a committee.
That's what Kim told me. It's not a lot of work. She lied like a rug.
That's why you didn't see me, Joe. I knew how much work she put into that.
No, what I said to Chrissy was, who's not here from that?
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that, Terry. You're absolutely right. David, State Council.
I have 41 pages and I'm going to condense hopefully to 5 minutes, maybe 10. So just bear with me. There's a lot of stuff that went on, stuff that was important for us. If you guys want to get up and go, I guess get up and go. I will send out the variety of notes that come out from different folks along the way so we can get the download of all of it. If you haven't been up to State Council, you absolutely should go. It is incredible. Day one are all of the subcommittee meetings and they talk about everything, hash it all out. And then day 2, they hash it out all again in CMAC and in the morning, and then in the afternoon they hash it out all again. So I'm just going to sort of give some highlights from the subcommittee meetings and some comments from the director and some others, and then we'll follow that. If you have any questions, please let me know. From the finance subcommittee, they have a cost survey tool out for core sponsors. This is important because core sponsors are in a losing proposition for making any kind of money on classes that they run. And this includes agencies that are doing this as well, because the reimbursement just plain stinks. And so the only way that the state is going to up the possibility of reimbursement is that core sponsors let them know that the reimbursement stinks. And only 15% of core sponsors so far have answered the survey, so it's important to do that. We'll probably see less and less refreshers as we're going forward because more people are doing the CME program. We do need students that get into test faster, so reimbursement happens because it happens when the student, at the moment, when the student gets their card or passing grade. We'll talk about that in a second also. We're looking at a variety of testing options. A lot of people did the academy-style classes, and that was really helpful. Bill talked about the REM skills needing more money and that they haven't had an increase since 1997. Part of what they're looking to do is find out what exactly the deliverables are compared to previous years and see if there's a way they can reword them, change them, etc. So that's fine. So it wasn't too bad. All right. Training and ed. We talked about the things so far here already. The executive orders that were expired really did not affect education and certification. So you can still do the National Registry in New York State, take the National Registry exam, practical, and get reciprocity from New York State for the practical piece of it. If those executive orders expire, you won't be able to do that. However, the state is looking at making those things more permanent in some way, shape, or form. At the moment, though, you're still able to do that. Talked about the health commerce system, the cost survey tool, academy-style courses. They brought about 500 new providers into the system. About 250 of them were civilians, and they are out there really doing their thing. So that's really good. They talked about doing those some more, and so they're looking at doing that again. The reimbursement structure for those makes it difficult. And a lot of folks said it was difficult for volunteers because it's like a 40-hour a week for however many weeks through, which is tough for volunteers. But a lot of commercial agencies said it was great because they're doing the pay-to-pay program where they're training the person while they're actually on duty, and then they come out. The PSC work group is making revisions to the new BLS PSC manual. The pilot program for combined EMT AEMT is still being looked at by the commissioner. National Registry 2213 was rescinded, and so that allowed approved programs to sit for National Registry, including those that were state approved but not accredited. Let's see. So there are about 70,000 certified providers in the state, and only 35,000 actually providing care according to PCRs. And so this is where that academy-style program seems to be beneficial because it brought more than 500 folks in. So what they thought was, let's continue to do academy-style programs. If we can bring large chunks of folks in sort of a quick way, maybe we need to expand the program out a little bit by a couple of weeks, make it a little bit easier, but that's another option. What they said is, look, we have got to change how we are doing education now. Jean Taylor was there. She was retired, I think, as of today. And she said, how we're doing it isn't working. It's got to change. This is another way of doing it. Maybe this will work. The reimbursement piece was brought up as an ongoing issue because of certification extensions, where it was done every 3 years, then it's done every 5 years, now you don't have the revenue, you still have to pay folks, instructors, textbooks, this and that, etc. And so there's non-reimbursement for that time frame. There's also non-reimbursement for students who drop out along the program or fail the state exam. So you put all this time and effort into it, and then the folks don't actually get through it. So what could we do? Support students that are in the program, support them at your agencies, do additional education, training, skills checks, etc. Help them through it so that they actually pass through the program and get them to test soon, because a lot of folks are not testing right away, losing the information, failing the exam, and they're not able to progress. For course sponsorships, for students not yet affiliated at the beginning of the course, Jean said on her way out, oh, send in the affiliations before we get into the course. We're counting.
Really?
Just saying.
Yeah, that was a lot of our takes. We go, we
So-
cornered her afterwards and say,
Yeah.
when did this happen? Oh, we just did it. If
Yeah.
you send it in, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, so she said this, it's on the record, and I imagine that John McDonald's probably gonna continue to do that because it seems to be the right thing to do.
We cornered him afterwards and got his comments. He supported it, so.
Yes, yep. From finance, they have to do budget recommendations for training and ed. So they're looking at different ways of financing training and education, including textbook funding, leadership training, academy course training, re-looking at the paramedic program training funding, fellowship programs at your agencies. So if you have folks that aren't totally sure whether they want to be an EMT or not, bring them into a fellowship, have them ride, put them through an EMT program, and this is another way of getting folks in. Additionally, certifications including paramedicine and physical transportation as components of this. Howard Huth talked about the EMT program. He's had to do some evaluations of them for a couple of colleges and institutions. All of those colleagues around the table here who remember the old EMT program, it's not like that today. And today it's actually considered 11 and a half contact hours at a collegiate level. That's a half hour away from being a full-time student for a semester. And so we again have to relook at this, what does it mean, and how can we change some of this? We have to change the educational model. We also have to brand ourselves a lot better from a previous discussion and being on the same page and how we look and how we act, how we call ourselves. They talked about us just saying we're paramedics and that's it. Maybe there's a different level of being a paramedic, but not a first responder, EMT, paramedic, what does that look like? You know, police officers are police officers, firefighters are firefighters. What are we? How do we brand ourselves? How do we look? How do we present ourselves in public? And we really need to do that as a group. To the point of NYSVARA, Onion, FASME, you know, and all of those groups coming together and presenting legislators and politicos with a singular message, because right now it's factual all over the place. And we really need to do that as well. Okay, that was education and training legislative. Part F, if you all remember that, the legislative group put together a task force to really rework some of this. And they weren't charged to change Article 30, but it's an old document. They reworked Part F to make comments to legislators about it. And that is, I know that's available on board, but I don't know if that's available out to the community at the moment.
No.
They did some work on it. It was a rousing success from the group there. As soon as that comes out, we will forward it to everybody so you can see what those comments and thoughts and suggestions are. We really need to work at integrating local government into EMS, counties, county EMS coordinators. The industry really has to work collaboratively with them. They don't want to hear, Tim, you talked about this in the past. They don't want to hear from you when there's a problem. They want to hear from you all along the way. And then if there is a problem, you can communicate about it in a good way instead of that's the first time that they heard from you. And so they reiterated that as well, especially in terms of finance and financial impact. Okay. Some things that they thought might be helpful are property tax support, legislative direct pay, POH operating media campaign for all of EMS, federal EMS training funds, workforce development funds directed to EMS agencies, and calling EMS an essential service and a mandated service to help funding strategies to be secure. Okay. Mike Bennett already talked about the white paper in EMS. He's done a ton of work on that, and all the subgroups put their information in. He's going to be bringing that out. One of the biggest areas, of course, is staffing. A because of, another shocker, finance. And so these are two big areas that make up that payment. In the systems committee, there's a number of places that are using physician fly cars, and there are regulatory issues about that. The state is working on that and trying to come up with a policy statement to help address it. The systems committee is also working on 0606 and the 2008 work group. Let's see, there's an increase in trauma system applications. There is a ton of problems with offload times in a number of hospitals. That wall time is what they're calling it, a crew standing up, holding the wall up, waiting for a bed, is a big issue. The state site is still open for folks to put information into, but really what they're saying is they look at PCRs to see how long it's taken from when you get to a hospital to when you transfer patient care. And they're not seeing a huge difference in the PCR, so make sure your documentation, your PCRs really reflects that delay in time at the hospital, and also report to the state through their online system.
If I can add to that, make sure that your providers are actually putting that data in. Because if they don't put hands-off time, you can't run that data.
Are they measuring that at destination and service?
Say again?
Are they measuring that as the difference between that destination and service? How do you do that?
At destination and transfer of care to the hospital staff.
Most of these output programs put the transfer of care when they're.
I was just wondering which metrics they were using.
He said it wasn't a problem when they aggregate the data across the state, but you can't do that. That makes no sense to me because they're having a lot of problems up north where some folks are transporting an extra half hour so they don't have a 2-hour wait time.
I'm here in northern and western Virginia, especially this one.
Yeah, and some of them are using helicopters to move patients because it's easier to move, which is invaluable. Okay. EMS Safety Committee did not meet for quality metrics. The manual we were hoping to have out to the state in November, and because it's a pretty in-depth thing, we're looking at a quick start guide to help folks get up and running as well. There are 3 main problems that are out there in terms of data. Getting everybody into a PCR platform, which most everybody is now. Excuse me. Getting good data. There are 17 different platforms that have 34 different interpretations of what NEMSIS data means from a language perspective. And so that means Jeff can't get good data, the state can't get good data, and you can't get good data because the vendor thinks these words mean one thing and it's another language someplace else. They're working on getting all that worked out at the state level with these vendors. We made a really big push to say, hold the PCR vendors accountable. If you can't follow NEMSIS data parameters and requirements, then you're not going to be in New York State. Thank you for coming and be done with it. I think they were looking to, they thought that going down to 5 vendors was probably the best thing to do. That makes things a lot easier. But make sure that the data is in the reports because we can't get good data out unless we have good data going into it. Some other solutions, aside from holding PCR vendors accountable, is standardizing the data to NEMSIS, sending out the data dictionary to agencies and program agencies ahead of time, and for our providers, everybody hates this, right? Like, I'm sort of waiting for the rotten tomatoes to come, but nobody likes documentation CNAs, right? I know how to document, you can't tell me, oh my gosh, I'm just going to shut down right now, right? And so this is an issue. There's a lot of good information that can go in, and if we're not using the fields and it's going into the narrative, not searchable, you're not getting the agency information you need, and the outcomes to those things are really important, i.e. the state, the wait times at hospitals. I'm not pointing to the Timmy's not sitting fine with it. But other things like race. A lot of providers don't want to mark a race down because they consider it a political issue. It's not a political issue. This is a health document. This is a health issue. Some folks in different races have higher propensity to hypertension, stroke, diabetes, and other things. And this is another factor to be able to indicate some of those and do data and research on it. So another piece of this, try and get information out of the narrative and into fields and get away from other. I think the next set,
3.5.
what is it, 3.5 is going to almost eliminate other as a field so that you have to choose something and there's going to be less text fields. Suffolk County had a dramatic issue with their PCR vendor because the hospital field as a disposition was a text box. And so people were writing Mr. Jones's home, you know, spelling the hospital differently, like all kinds of stuff, and they couldn't
Period
do
is.
that. So that's a problem. In terms of quality measures, the committee's looking at the NEMSCO measures, National EMS Quality Alliance. They look at the AHA, ACS, trauma, others. We're working with the region to look at those same kinds of measures for reporting. And we're looking to stack an EMSC as long as things follow NEMSIS standards. That's a quality assurance, or quality metrics. The Innovations Committee is looking at the ET3 data, Noble Integrated Health paper, telehealth as a way of not having to bring patients to hospitals, keeping your folks in service, and doing a lot of other pretty cool things. It works in a very community paramedicine kind of way as well. And they talked about Jerry Cutson doing a lot of virtual reality training. Those things are out there now. If you haven't tried virtual reality anything, you've got to do it. It's absolutely amazing. And so virtual reality training is one of those next steps that is super, super good to do. All right, we're on to day 2. Yeah, great. If you haven't,
They are long days.
Yeah.
Here it goes to 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God, all of the stuff I just talked about, I'm eliminating from day 2, so you don't get to have it. From the mayoral office, the Metropolitan Area Regional Office, Richard Robinson is getting two new folks in there to help them. He's doing renewal packets and full services, investigations. They're going all around, it's going very well. Course sponsor renewals are going out, some are short forms, some are long forms. EMSC is looking at a work group for PEC coordinators of emergency departments. Just like we have them for agencies, if you don't have a PEC coordinator for agency, you should have one. We're looking for those departments as well. Talk about vital signs, the memorial, digital certification cards, sustainability tag, surge operations, Clean Taylor's retirement. She has been in the industry for almost 5 decades. That is a long time, in various capacities. Med Standards brought up the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 protocols for New York City. They're all approved. They adopted the ACS trauma guidelines for January 1st of 23. They talked about TXA and Afrin in the New York State formulary. For TXA, remember that the local RTAC has to approve that, and then the agency has to approve that. We can't just do it as a region and say that we're going to do TXA. The state medical director position is moving forward. They talked about the helicopter blood transport program, wait times and diversions, fluids and drug shortages. Senate Bill S947B was the body armor. That has been resolved. That's no longer an issue for EMS folks. They talked about the Suffolk County Northwell issue of action that went up to the state. It was stayed, appealed to the Bureau, and it's waiting legal response. Now we're into the afternoon.
How many days is this?
2.
Oh, okay, so 2.
Seems like 3.
I swear my haircut would change.
Yeah. Yeah. Soon I'm gonna look like Dave. is what
Yeah.
happens.
I miss it.
Their scheduling plan is going to be 4 times a year for meetings. They talked about battle songs, etc. There's a committee that was just formed, I believe, at the beginning of this year called Equity and Inclusion. And they're sending a survey out focused on workplace harassment and discrimination. And they want to send it out to all the providers in the state. They would like all of the regions to send in one name to participate in the tag as a representative from each region. So I would, offer that we really need to find somebody and have them reach out to Jerry Kutzman, I believe he's chairing that committee.
So I'll just interject for a half a second.
Please.
Because that is not a committee member requirement, if you know someone in your agency or you know someone who would represent us and is an expert in that field or has a passion for that subject, send us a note. Let us know. We'll be happy to review it and make a recommendation up. No different than our nurse of excellence who is sitting amongst us. There are some subject matter experts out there that are not council members, so something to think about. If there's a council member that wants to be, please.
There is one last thing I wanted to make sure that we brought up, and that is that they are really moving towards maintaining the protocols in line with the national education standards. And to that end, they have removed endotracheal intubation for AEMTs, incorporative of skills and testing as of January 1st, 2023. So that was brought up there as well. Doesn't mean it won't come back when the national standards change as a possibility, but as of now, that's where this thing stands. I know that's long. I'm so sorry. There's a ton of information. There's no other way to do it. And this is that flow, right? State to region to county to agency and back up the other way. There's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of things happening. This is our involvement. This is our group. This is our region. I have to tell you, our region is represented super well, not by me, but by all the other folks doing all kinds of things from our region, up at state council in so many different ways. And a lot of people appreciate it. I myself really appreciate it. So thank you to everybody for all that you're doing now that's out there. We're an amazing region.
Right. So again, it's kind of a shout out to everybody that's, sitting here and those that aren't with us tonight. But, when we go up to these things, David holds so many freaking hats I can't see straight because he doesn't know the word no. But, from chairing quality metrics to sitting on the training and education committee to sitting on systems. If I missed one, correct me. Tim, you sit on legislative. Rich sits on training and education. Bill sits in finance. I just got appointed Terry sits on pretty much everything too. Just legislative. I just got appointed to legislative. I didn't realize I was being appointed until you don't know what it's like to ever talk to a Mr. Al Lewis. If you haven't, man is convincing. So, but again, everybody's going up there on their own time and sitting in these committees, and they are long and they are really important because it's a lot of information. It steers our industry not only today but tomorrow and 10 years from now. So I would encourage you to appreciate the time and effort that's put into there and then go up. Is there a question in the back? No, you're just stretching?
I have 2 quick comments.
Okay, no problem. Tim, go ahead.
He's done.
Tim, go ahead, sir.
They're both related to data. One is that I think each of the vendors has a slightly different interpretation of the state schema, which causes untold problems. And the other has to do with the same issue that we're all facing. The labor pool is very short. I used to be able to get, when I needed a Zoll support rep on the phone, anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes. Now, if I get a call back in 3 days, I consider myself lucky. And that's a real problem. So, and they told me straight up, yeah, it's a labor issue.
All these committees that they're talking about forming, Wasn't that the purpose of the state EMS task force that was formed 2 years ago? Is there any talk about that at all?
EMS task force, they,
Is that the rural task force that you're talking about?
Rural, the EMS rural.
Yes.
It's all
New York
one
State is
individual, but it's
rural.
almost,
I mean, it's
times
all
almost
rural.
up.
Yeah, I believe that they have stood up and are coming, they're gonna come into line right after we end up with this white paper with the sustainability tag. It's gonna dovetail into their work. And I believe that they have other ties into other areas of the state as well, which is gonna be fantastic, because then there'll be a voice for EMS representatives.
I think they did mention that they have all but 2 members vetted on it now, and they're ready to be working.
Good question, Chuck. Yes.
Okay, so that the rural task force who's delayed has been lack of diversity.
Lack of diversity.
Lack of diversity, correct.
What kind of diversity?
Race.
The kind you think of,
Yeah,
diversity. The same kind of diversity that the state looks for in pretty much everything.
Absolutely.
And I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
Sorry, I asked.
No,
Unless there's no other questions, that's in my report, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any questions for David?
No.
Okay then. All right, moving on to old business. I don't see Anthony here. Is there anybody else that was sitting on the Vision 2025 tag with him? Hearing none. Nick did send in a email apologizing for not being able to be here as far as the data usage tag. He had no report as of this meeting. And that leads us to our 2-time running Nurse of Excellence for the Hudson Valley. Going to try and make it a 3-peat for 2022.
Get on there for that.
Brent, well, you know what? Congratulations, because that's a recognition by your peers, and it's 2 years in a row where she has been the Nurse of Excellence.
It's very humbling, and I'd like to thank all of you
So,
for that honor.
You and Wayne are sitting on the CISM tag. Do you guys have a report?
We had a rocky start over the summer. Partially was my fault because I had situations that I prioritized to take care of first.
Understood.
But Brenda's got a survey together. She met with the Ulster County? Yes, the Ulster County citizen team up there, put a survey together. We just have to figure out how we're going to distribute it at the end. Not only EMS, I have in my note 2 chiefs contact me, and I think some other police personnel that are interested in coming in on this system.
Okay.
Ideally, we would like it to encompass all first responders, so law, fire, EMS, obviously, and dispatch. So we'd like to survey all of those disciplines to see what resources they already have, and what their interest level in having a team for Orange County would be.
Okay.
We know that there's already a team in Rockland, we know there's a team in Ulster, but specifically here in Orange, they're
Okay. So probably the smartest way for us to handle that, and again, I'll take any suggestions from the gallery, but, first reaching out to the EMS coordinator and seeing if we can push that, because then they can push it to both fire and law enforcement, and then we'll go to the county emergency manager, which I believe is still Brendan Casey. Somebody correct me if it's not. And then if we get no results there, we can push it right up to Mr. Newhouse, who's the county executive. He's pretty responsive when we send stuff to him. But in Brendan Casey's defense, he's pretty good about answering stuff too. So that would be my suggestion. Again, if you want to move into Ulster, Rockland, Putnam, Sullivan, we would encourage that as well. As well as Dutchess. So.
And also, I'm going to a course down in Westchester for one day course on first responders, mental health first responders. I did contact the people putting it together. I'll go down and see if we'll bring it up here. We're willing to bring it up to Orange County as long as I can guarantee about 20, 30 people.
Okay, excellent.
For one day seminar.
Again, when you're looking for new and interesting CME projects and, educational opportunities, this is something that affects each and every one of us. From the brand new, probie coming through the door to the, crusty old person sitting in the corner complaining about everything. Doesn't matter where it's at. And I don't know which corner you want to look to. I guess no corner. So, but again, something that affects all of it. Boy, there was a lot of people looking at themselves. It's getting late, I guess. But thank you, Brenda. We do appreciate your willingness to be part of this. And again, would love, to acknowledge your, dedication to EMS and the recognition that you get from, being that nurse of excellence. So thank you. Is there any other old business? Hearing none. Is there any new business? Hearing no new business?
I have to put a little plug in for Terry, myself, and Denise started at EMS Leadership Academy in Rockland. It's open to anybody. It's going to be, we had our first session at Chief Lindsay and Monsignor from Bidney, come up and speak about leading the invisible. She was fantastic. But we have speakers like Ryan Greenberg, Lee Burns, Mike McAvoy. We're going to talk about, we have law enforcement coming in. We're going to talk about safety for our agency, not-for-profit law, finances, budgeting, things like that. It'll be a whole thing. So if I send it up to the region, can we get that?
We'll be happy to forward it out, right?
We've got the auditorium. We can take 300 people. We'll break into workshops.
Is there a cost to it, Desiree, or is it you guys are providing it? Excellent.
Enough to have, I can give Sam pay for lunch and
Excellent.
we had 300 people. I don't know if they'll walk it back, but there are other hospitals in the region that should be able to help us out.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So yeah, I'm sure Bill and them will be happy to forward that out as quickly as possible. Michael.
National MS Academy, I think was there. We got the sponsorship for that. We got, I think it's Orange County paying for it. It's like $15,000. So we're going out shortly, see everybody who wants to see the class. It's a really, really good class. It's 40 hours long and stuff.
So it's kind of similar to what Desiree's doing, or is it something different?
It's a national.
Okay.
National I think you're right, yeah.
Okay. Excellent, yeah. Forward up that information. We'll get that pushed out as well. And is there a cost to that, or is it? Excellent, excellent. Even for out-of-county members? We won't tell them where they're from? They're from the Hudson Valley. All right, good. Hudson Valley. Let them know that Rockland's paying for everybody, so, maybe we can shame them into paying for everybody. There you go. All right, any other new business? Motion to adjourn, please. Oh, 100. Second? Pick anybody. Take Bob Cuomo and Joan Schumer.